Good day. Welcome to Cardinal Catastrophe Services. This is Aaron Specht giving you another podcast, another Cardinal Cast training. This specific podcast, I'm going to talk about one of the forms that we go through with the customer when we are turning a new job into production. So the form I'm going to talk about is called the Pre-Install Disclosure and Precautionary Statement. So as this is one of the steps of your color meeting. So as you are turning jobs into production live, you're going to sit down with your customer, with your homeowner, and you're going to do what we call a color meeting. So the color meeting is one of the most important parts of our business in terms of communicating everything and setting expectations and really setting the control level of how the job is going to run, expectations and how everything works. So one of the most important forms is called the Pre-Install Disclosure Precautionary Statement. So it has several items that you'll go through with the customer, and then you'll initial it and have the customer sign the end of it. So and what you want this to do is you want to go through each one in your own language, in your own style, and then just kind of talk about how it applies to how you're managing the job. So the first thing we talk about is access. So what we say is our crews do not use roll-up dumpsters unless there's a special requirement, multiple layer roofs or something like that. But you want to say that we do use our own rubber-tired recycling trailers. So we have access listed. So as we get closer to putting your roof on, we're going to want to back that dump trailer as close as we can to your house, and we don't want to block any cars in. This is also important to know too that we will rooftop deliver your shingles to your house. So in the event that you have a super fancy driveway, or if you know your driveway won't withstand the weight of a boom truck, we need to know that right now. In other words, we're not in the business of crushing driveways and building new driveway or putting a new driveway down for you. So it's not very common, but it's something that you need to make sure with the precautionary statement with access that we don't wreck your driveway. So if their driveway won't hold the weight, you're going to have to make a note of that. And then basically what will happen is you'll push pause on the job. You'll have to work with supplementing and getting what's called the ground drop paid for by the insurance company. Now, if the homeowner isn't sure and you want to err on the side of being, super smart, don't drive on the driveway with the boom truck. Have it be a ground drop and spend the time working with getting this added as a supplemental invoice. So the other thing you want to talk about, the next item is weather. So we do say we are at the mercy of Mother Nature. If there is a 30% chance of precipitation or greater, we will cancel all roofing that day. And the line that I always use, whether it makes sense or not, I don't know, but the line I always use is think of our roofing system as an assembly line. Every time you shut it off and turn it back on, it takes longer to get moving. So just like roofing, if we do have a lot of rain delays, it does delay our entire roofing scheduling system. So we just ask you to be patient and work with us if we do have a ton of rain. And also know that Cardinal Catastrophe Services is pretty popular. We're good at what we do. You are not our only customer. So, when we do have a day that we cancel roofing, it affects the people that were ahead of you, and it doesn't just affect you. The other thing that we talk about is we only monitor NOAA.gov. So NOAA.gov, if it says 30% chance of rain or greater, we aren't going to work that day. We're not going to look at any other website than that. The other thing we talk about, and this is for your colder months, is since we are one of the only roofing contractors in the Metro of St. Louis, we're members of the National Roofing Contractors Association. So we do follow their guidelines in terms of how to put a roof on and some of the requirements that they have. So one of the requirements that they say is you must not roof when it's less than 40 degrees. So during your colder weather months, and yes, we are in the South, we are in St. Louis, so we don't really ever shut down for any long period of time because we do have relatively mild winters. We do roof year round, but we will delay roofing if we have weather that is colder than 40 degrees. Now, if it's borderline, the big thing for this to know, and this is something you can tell your customers, is that, you know, we want to nail when it's 40 degrees or warmer. Now, if it's colder in the morning, it's actually much more labor intensive for our roofers to tear off when it's super cold. The shingles are more brittle, they come off easier. But we don't want to be nailing when it's 40 degrees or cooler. And basically, people will think that, well, the shingles won't stick. Well, it has very little to do with the adhesion of a shingle. It has to do with how cold and how brittle the shingles will get when it's cold. So think about when you back your car out of the driveway and you bump into your plastic trash cans and how they crack. So if you shoot a nail into a shingle, when it's super cold, they'll crack, and then you'll eventually have water coming in. Now, just know that, you know, most roofers and contractors don't give a crap about this and they roof year round. So it will kind of annoy you when you see Jack and Coke Roofing, who you lost a job to, putting a roof on when it's 20 degrees. It'll piss you off, but it's how the business works. So weather is something super important. And what this does too is this buys you any time, just in the event that we do run into any kind of roofing delays. You know, I don't like to give dates out. And the other thing during this time is when I will explain to the customers how our roofing scheduling system works. So I'll say, now this is how this works, is that from the time we take your job and plug it all into production, we're going to put the roofing order into your system. The roofing order is based off of what your insurance company is paying for. So here's where we lose some control. We're going to put the roofing order in the system. It'll be emailed to the next supplier available. So unlike a lot of roofers and contractors, we're not lined up with only one supplier. We do buy from many roofing supply houses, and we really can't control when we order the roofing system, if it's going to deliver today, tomorrow, or in 2 weeks. Some do a really good job of giving us email acknowledgments, and some don't. So you tell your customers that we don't like to give dates until the roofing system is delivered. So once we order the roofing system, once it's arriving rooftop, then we have an access point that will plug in our system called loaded, and then we will, at that point, we know the roofing system is parked at your house, it's sitting rooftop. Then we will schedule one of our roofing crews. One of the biggest mistakes roofers make is they don't order the roof, or they don't have acknowledgement that the roofing system is delivered to the house, and they send the roofers out and they tear off the roof, and the shingles are not there and they're not coming. And then what happens is then it rains and you have a major leak. So one of our rules is we don't want to schedule our labor unless we have confirmation that the roofing system's sitting rooftop. We call that loaded. So that's very important. This also will help buy you time just in the event that you do have some kind of catastrophe and you do need to, delay when the roof's going to go on. And just know that this is when you can say, general lead times in this industry are about 6 weeks from the time that we take the down payment. Depending on how busy we are, Cardinal, we're 2-3 weeks out, mainly all the time. So you want to make sure that it's not a race to get the job installed, to make sure the check clears and everything. You really just want to make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time. The last thing you want to do is say, we're going to get this put on Tuesday, and don't give yourself enough time to get everything processed. And, the shingle companies will delay. Okay, the next one's work area noise. This is where you say, this is a construction site. This is a job site. It is going to be loud. We are going to be beating and banging. So we just ask that you work with us. If you have any kids, pets, neighbor kids, you want to make sure that they're not running around the job site. It's going to be a big mess. There'll be shingles everywhere. We don't want anybody to get hit in the head with a shingle or step on a nail. And this is where you can kind of plug in for the nitpicking customer, saying, listen, judge us when we're done. We incentivize our roofers to do a really good job cleaning up. The place will be very messy. We will clean it up. And if you're not happy, we'll keep on coming back and clean up until you are happy. We do have a 25-point quality assurance walkthrough that we do towards the end of all of our jobs. So a lot of times that's when some of the final cleanup will be done. We'll get the nailed magnet around your property. We'll do a good job with that. But make sure that they understand too that it's going to be loud and we are going to be beating and banging. And you want to make sure they know that for the people that have to get up early in the morning or the third shifters or something like that. Next thing we talk about is power. So you say that our roofers will be required to use the external power on your house. In the unlikely event that the outside power does not work, please run an extension cord for the guys. We do need power for like cutting and ridge vent and things like that. The next thing is called stow items. So here's where I'll say we have $2 million of general liability insurance. We've been in business for over 10 years. We've never used it, but we don't want to start with you. So what that means is if you do have that super expensive, painting, or if you do have an expensive grill or something around your house that could get damaged, let's work together, take the initiative. Let's be smart. Let's be proactive, move things off your wall if you're afraid that's going to fall down. Now, generally during roofing, we don't have problems with pictures falling off the wall, but we're just saying be smart, be proactive, and this is a CYA. And this is really important too for the people that have like the pool covers. Make sure that the homeowners understand that they are responsible for covering their pools. You may come by addition after the customer covers their pool with their pool cover with a tarp. But you just want to make sure that the customers are working together with you. And this is also true for the expensive, patio sets and furniture and grills and things like that. Get all that backed away. So if the roofers inadvertently have something fly off the roof, it doesn't break. Nothing will piss you off more than when you have a customer that you didn't make this clear with, and they say, yeah, you broke my rotting lawnmower, so you got to buy me a new one. And believe me, that's happened to us. So duration, this is when we talk about the length of the job. So what we say is on a flat walkable roof, our roofers can do about 45 squares of roofing a day. So then you can do the math, or if you look at how many squares based on what you're doing, you should be able to figure out how long it will take. So you want to give yourself extra time if it's steep, if it's a cut up ugly roof, but you also want to say that, the roofers will be here at the crack of dawn in the morning. We really don't like to say exactly when, but it's usually before 8, sometimes early as, 5:36. And then you do want to say, if it's 25 squares, you want to say this should take 1 day. If it's 40 squares, this should take a day and a half to 2 days. That way, you're not selling an expectation that's not realistic. If it's 70 squares and you're saying it's 2 days and it takes 3 days, you'll just piss off the customer. So just know that. Ventilation, it's important to know, since you're in roofing sales, how ridge vent works and, some of the mathematical equations for figuring out attic space and what you need for a proper ventilation so you can put a warranty on the roof. Work with your mentoring project manager if you're not sure about that, or even ask me. I know we like to, if you're going to cut in ridge vent, a lot of times I'll just take the turtle vent money and move some metals and change order it out so I can afford to put it on there. There is a cost associated to it. But also, you also make sure you understand that some houses, if they don't have proper soffit intake, you're not supposed to cut ridge vent in. So if you're ever not sure, a good rule of thumb is err on the side of turtle vents. So cut in turtle vents and always cut in more than you probably think. So in the unlikely event that there isn't any ventilation on the roof and the homeowner doesn't want to come out of pocket and you've got no money to work with on the claim to cut in turtle vents, you can sign here where it says our warranties, our labor warranty is no good. The problem with not having good ventilation is not only is our labor warranty no good, the shingle warranties will be no good either. Let's see, next is payment schedule. There's a whole nother Cardinal cast coming, talking about the pre-install financial discussion, but this is a little snippet here that just says we are doing the work for what the insurance is paying, unless noted otherwise, and you will pay your out-of-pocket deductible also. So you want to make sure it's really clear, all the insurance money and your out-of-pocket deductible is part of what Cardinal is paid. So last but not least with this is extra material. So we actually had shingles stolen. We had a full roofing system stolen from a job site at one time. But what you want to say here is you want to say that we order more shingles than the insurance company pays for on purpose. We order more hip and ridge cap. We order more reusables with intent. So when we're finished with your roof, if you do have, a half a pallet, if there's 6 or 7 bundles of shingles left over, those belong to Cardinal. Now, all the partial bundles and some of the partial, starters and hip and ridge cap and things like that, sure, the homeowner can keep them. But the way you're going to maximize your commission and the way you're going to maximize profits on the job is to keep your material cost down. So when you have a huge return, that's a good thing. Even if you're, hand bombing 70-pound bundles of shingles in the back of your truck, that's making you money. So just make sure that the homeowner doesn't try to keep any extra, a bundle here or there, that's fine. But if they're trying to keep a bunch of it, no go. We actually had a customer where I ordered, I think, 30 squares, and it was supposed to be 20 squares. I mean, it was a key punch error to the tune of 10 full squares. Customer calls me up and says, "Hey, Aaron, I want my money back." I'm like, excuse me? Well, I see all these shingles here, so obviously I get some kind of rebate, don't I? I'm like, well, let me look this up. No, this is actually a mistake I made where I ordered 30 instead of 20. So, no, that's not a rebate. That does belong to the company. I'll be down to pick them up tomorrow morning. Went down the next day. Somebody stole the shingles, Aaron. So, this is on here, and it's also in the back of the contract just to make sure that your customers know that, yeah, all that extra stuff belongs to us. So, we'll wrap this training podcast up by, just know, if you're not sure when you're a new person, just read the thing back to the customer until you kind of have your own dialogue about this. But it's important that they know this stuff. As you get better at selling and as you sell more jobs, you'll have your own things. I know we've had some people in the past that have kind of made their own addendum that they'll go through and have their customers initial specifically for how they manage jobs. Like, here's my cell phone. Only call me. Don't call the office. I'm your point of contact, that kind of thing. But the whole point is, during the color meeting, I like the color meetings to be an hour long, sometimes 2 hours long. I really want to make sure that the homeowner is dialed into what I'm going to do and what the company is going to do for them and how we're working together. And this kind of gets into, dog tail stuff and making sure that you are in charge of the project and you're calling the shots, because once you're not, you lose money and then it's not as fun. When the customer's bossing you around, it's just not that fun. Okay, you have another one coming up here, pre-install financial discussion. That will be next. And I will sign off. Talk to you guys later.